morning. The loss of life and the tragedy of the violence in the Middle East this week have been a terrible development for the Israeli and the Palestinian people. A blow to all those who work for a lasting peace, an encouragement to those who oppose a lasting peace. Earlier this week, I called on Israelis and Palestinians to end the cycle of violence, to restore calm, to recommit themselves to the hard work of building peace through negotiations. There has been some progress since then toward ending the confrontation, but not enough. Therefore, after consulting with Secretary Christopher, who has literally been working around the clock with the regional leaders to resolve this problem, I have invited Prime Minister Netanyahu and Chairman Arafat to come to Washington as soon as possible. They have accepted my invitation, as has King Hussein of Jordan. I've also invited President Mubarak of Egypt. He is seeing whether it is possible for him to attend. I expect the meetings to take place early this week. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that he will abide by all previous agreements, and that is an understanding that he has reached with Chairman Arafat. We will be discussing the relevant issues here to the recent violence and what can be done to really get the peace process back on track when they come here.
Hamas said all the time that the enemy does not understand any language except the language of force. And Israel, they exploit the time of peace to expand the settlements, I said before, to impose everything on the Palestinians. They should understand that the Palestinian people is strong people, and we have many options. We can use resistance, we can use armed struggle against Israel, we can use everything against Israel.
I think President Clinton has demonstrated considerable political courage and world leadership in turning to the leaders of the Middle East to come to Washington to put out the flames of violence. Peace and violence, peace and terrorism cannot coexist. We need to put the peace process back on track with the kind of norms that will lead to a stable peace and real understanding between people.
They have placed the Palestinian territories under a double siege. They have fragmented the Palestinian land. There are tanks and Cobra helicopters all over the place. They think that by force, by power, by dictate, they can dictate their own will. They're not going to be able to do that. Also, we feel politically there has to be, if there is to be a summit, a multilateral summit. We are not at all in favor of a bilateral meeting, which Netanyahu will use, first of all, to create the impression of progress and negotiations when there are no real negotiations and no substance and no implementations. We also need witnesses and third-party involvement, because every time there's a bilateral meeting, Netanyahu reneges on the agreements and distorts the results, and again uses them to mislead the world.
We're not bringing demands. We just want two things: the cessation of hostilities and the resumption of the peace talks. I believe everybody in his right mind should want exactly those two things.